people were getting married in the United Kingdom at the age of 10, 12, and in America, all the way down in Delaware, it was actually 9 years old or 7 years old. It was legal to get married at this age. So when did it shift? It actually shifted here in the United Kingdom.
Wondering though.
This was a year ago? He had this whole breakdown a year ago, and he couldn't give any of this as an answer to me? What the f?
I think 9 is very young. It's
Did he listen to anything that he just said? After your debate with Sneako, if you can call it that, I went to Rumble yesterday to see what he was saying about it. And man, the chat was just spamming Kill Destiny and X-Queer C. That's kind of funny. Sorry. Sneako challenged you to a Zionism debate. We know there are two wolves inside of you. We need you to give in to the one that will obliterate. What? It's going to be cringe. He literally doesn't know anything. This guy's screaming at me, what does Islam have to do with politics? What am I even supposed to say to this guy? If he really wants to, I mean, we can, but it's just going to be cringe. And she tries so hard to farm and then cries when other people are farming him. Also, if you're going to get farmed off the question, what do you think the age of consent should be? Bro, maybe that's your fault that it's such a bountiful harvest. Hassan is reacting to his recent Piers Morgan appearance. He said he got really mad and looked unhinged. I think mine was good. I think I'm learning the format more. You get asked a question, you give your talking point that you want to get out, then you answer the question. I think I had a couple zingers in there. I don't know when mine goes live. Probably sometime today. You say that debates with people who know nothing are great for you because you can dismantle people's worldviews in the Peter Boghossian video. Yeah, but it's Sneako is the king sophist. He's not even pretending to be in pursuit of truth or whatever. And he's on the cringiest Muslim grift. Also, I wish that they could just accept. He doesn't even have good answers for the shit that he talks about. Listen, here's what I would do. This is what I would do. If I was a devout Muslim, okay, this is what I would say. When somebody says, what's the age of consent? You know what I would say? I would say, it could be anywhere from 25 to 11, depending on how quickly the person develops. Some people develop very quickly. We know this, right? And I'm sure you've met 24, 25-year-olds who haven't even developed enough yet to even have sex, okay? In the West, we've decided that we've set the laws at anywhere from 16 to 18, which I think is about okay. But obviously, there are probably some people that are a little younger that could have sex. There are some people a little older that could have sex. They should wait to have sex. In the Quran, it doesn't specify a particular age of consent. It just leaves it up to whenever people develop, and that's up for the countries to set their ages. And I think that's perfectly fine. That would be an okay answer. The reason why, I don't know if you could tell, the reason why I was asking him the question is because I knew he wouldn't give an answer because he's too stupid to know what the Quran even says about the age of consent, but he can't give a resolute answer because he's got a sip for Islam, and he thinks that part of Islam is defending the fact that Muhammad is a 9-year-old. So he can't give an answer. That's why I knew it was the ultimate short circuit question. But it was irritating because he's trying to pin XQC down on, can you give me the definitive source of all meta-ethical truth, which XQC is not going to have a fucking good answer for. But the irritating part is Sneako doesn't even know his own stupid book that he claims to follow religiously, metaphorically, or pun intended, religiously, because there's nothing religious about the way that he follows Islam. God, he's so irritating. Okay, anyway. Sneako is scared of getting gotcha'd by you, so his knee-jerk reaction when asking questions is to squirm out of answering what we all expect his answer to be because he doesn't want to give you the satisfaction, even though it's a bullet you should bite. Yeah, I know, because he's a coward. That's what anything I say to him, I mean. He's very, very cowardly, and it's very annoying. Especially if you're going to do a big Judeo-Christian... Islam counts as a Judeo-Christian religion, right? Because it's of the book, right? I don't know if I've ever heard that term before. Hold on. Or no, would you say Abrahamic religions? When you're talking about the three religions of the book or whatever, are all three of those Judeo-Christian? Judeo-Christian can't simply mean just Judaism and Christianity. Why would you have a word that stupid? Judeo-Christian. Why not just say Judaism and Christianity? Hold on. The term Judeo-Christian is used to group Christianity and Judaism together. What a cringe word. Okay. All right, I guess you're just calling it an Abrahamic religion then. because the West was founded on Judeo-Christian morals. Yeah, but I feel like Islam has a fuck ton of overlap. Like, I feel like all the three Abrahamic religions have a fuck ton of overlap in terms of like moral values. The internet used to be like, if this is the knowledge of the internet, it came from like all these different kinds of places. Like if these threads are the knowledge of the internet, it kind of like, there's a lot of different websites that people pull from. And then I would say that like this stuff here is kind of like, maybe you could call this like search engines. You'd be on Ask Jeeves, you'd be on Lycos, you'd be on Yahoo. Search was a huge one. Google was in the beginning, it was growing. Like this is kind of all of your information on the internet. There's been like a weird, uncomfortable thing that's happened. I'm not going to say it's bad necessarily, although it almost is. But right now, what you've essentially got is you've kind of got maybe news articles and maybe some books and maybe some documentaries. You've got Wikipedia. Then you've got podcasts. You've got Reddit. And then you've got blogs, okay? And all of them pull from Wikipedia. And then what happens is when you're searching on your search engines for information, you're pulling from like, you're either going to, you're going to blogs, you're going to podcasts, you're going to YouTube videos, whatever. But at the end of the day, all of the information is coming essentially from Wikipedia. It's filtered from here. And when you read a book, it allows you to break out of this cycle completely. And sometimes you can just find really new, refreshing information. It doesn't necessarily have to be information that's like, oh, all these guys are wrong. They're all fucking wrong. They're all missing. It's not necessarily that. You get like a new, fresh perspective on things. It's so much. One thing that I've noticed in all my note taking is that like the act of writing stuff and choosing what to include and what not to include, like it fleshes out and flavors things in important ways. And if you're only reading Wikipedia, or if you're only like looking at online sources, all of it kind of comes from the same place. And that's a little bit, not necessarily good. I don't think starting with Wikipedia is bad. But then the scary thing about starting from a single source is, well, now you're completely beholden to whatever the narrative that individual author believes in the most, you know? Yeah. But that's true too. I don't know if we really need to research like the Franco-Prussian War. I don't know if that's that important, or I just need like the outcomes of it. The Franco-Prussian War seems like an arbitrary starting point. Might as well start with World War I if you're skipping everything before it. Okay, well, so here's what I'm worried about, okay? So I've said this before. You've heard me say this. You've heard me say what I'm about to say too. Meta. I've said before that the reason why I could do like math and physics really well in school is because it all built off each other, right? You can't do Calc 2 without Calc 1. You can't do Calc 1 without, I don't know, what's the word? Trigonometry and fucking pre-calc. How about that? I mean, pre-calc is just what, like trig and geometry and advanced algebra or some bullshit, right? It all builds off each other. So it flows logically, okay? However, I think history does too. So for instance, like if I'm looking today at the war in Gaza, right? If I'm looking today at the war in Gaza, I feel like knowing a little bit about the Great March of Return in 2018 informs that a little bit. I feel like knowing about like the Second Intifada from 2000 to 2004 makes me understand why Israeli governments have gone to the right. I feel like knowing about the failures of the Camp David and the Taba Summit make me understand where the Second Intifada comes from. I feel like knowing about the failures of the Oslo Accord makes me understand where the failures of the Taba Summit come from. I feel like knowing about the First Intifada makes me understand where the Oslo Accord, right? And I feel like it all builds off of each other such that if I wanted to stake out a strong position, like if I want to stake out really strong positions about how I feel about like the failures of the Taba Summit, I feel like I need to know a little bit about like 1948 and what happened in that War of Independence. Like I feel like it's all kind of connected. So like if I want to learn a lot about World War II, I feel like it would be really silly to start at World War II. I feel like I would have to do World War I. And then if I'm going to do World War I, I feel like I need at least the conditions leading up to World War I. And I'm probably going to have to look through the perspective of individual countries. So Germany is obviously a good place to start. And And then it's just a matter of like, well, what's a good starting point for Germany? Maybe it is World War I, or like a little bit before World War I.
Sneako, I'm not gonna lie, bro. Don't debate this nigga. You get cooked, bro. Don't debate this nigga, bro. Don't debate this nigga. Don't debate this nigga. You get cooked, bro. Don't debate this nigga, bro.
It's not an important conversation.
No, it's
Why is
you
he
don't think
debating this
fucking kids
nigga,
are not-
bro? Like I've seen Sneako debate this nigga,
Wait,
and
no,
it never
but
went
the
like
age is
well.
important
Why is he
conversation.
debating?
What
Why
do
is
you
he
think age of consent-
talking? Why is he debating him, bro?
What? So far every timestamp on this stream is zest related, gay our stream.
Like no weird shit. I know everybody.
How do you have people like, how are people still homophobic in these communities when you got people like Tyler the Creator, okay? Come on, what the fuck? Guys, let's get over it.
Jesse has some edgy ass shit, but like this nigga's like smart. Like I wouldn't debate this nigga.
what?
Like he too like.
It can't be that hard a concept to realize attraction like having a crush as a kid works the same way with gay people as straight.
Here's an easy question. What do you think?
Like this nigga will cook me in a.
Could you watch a video too to get the basic summary of the 30-year war and French Revolution so you get the important context before starting with the Franco-Prussian War? Nope. We'll just start reading. That was a god-tier conversation to expose Sneako's lack of epistemology. Oh, it's just, I just hate the fake. If you're going to be a Muslim, like, just learn it. You're not doing anything else with your life. Like, just learn it. You don't even have to, you're surrounded by the whole fucking world of Islam wants to embrace you and teach you. He's probably got, I bet he's got access to all of the best Muslim debaters online. That Muhammad Hijab guy and the Daniel Higi, whatever the dude, like all these guys would probably be frothing at the mouth to educate Sneako and to give him tips. But it can't just be, if you guys are listening, I don't know if they listen to me or not. If any of you Muslim dudes are listening though, you can't just teach Sneako how to debate. He has to learn like the fundamental tenets of your religion. Have some faith in it. Like this religion has existed for like, what, like 1,500 years? Like trust that if you teach him the fundamentals and shit, he'll be able to eventually argue it. But like, would you... When you say apologetics, does that only refer to Christian stuff? Or can you have like Muslim apologetics or like Jewish apologetics? Apologetics is the religious system of defending religious doctrines through systematic argumentation and discourse. Because I've heard apologetics in reference to Christianity. Can you have, it does refer to all religions? Okay, yeah. Like apologetics is hard, but, okay? And oh my God, aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky, okay? Apologetics is hard, but you're not going to stumble across a single new argument ever because people have debated these religions for centuries, okay? Technically not millennia for Islam, okay? For centuries. So you can literally look up apologetics, you can look at discourse, you can read a book, you can read dialectics between probably theocratic Islamic leaders and other leaders, you can read all this shit. Like you can do this, okay? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, just read through. You could probably, I bet we could even Google like Muslim apologetics. 10 points for Christians to consider. There's going to be so much of this shit. Just learn. There's no excuse not to. If this is going to be your main grift, at least learn it. Fuck. The problem is that Sneako literally talked to some of the best Islamic scholars. Faris al-Hamadi, he just shuts his brain down and doesn't absorb any of the knowledge. It's actually infuriating to watch yeah, because he's like looking for debate points instead of like absorbing. But that's like another irritating thing too. Like religions aren't debate points. Like you should be like absorbing, like if somebody asks you a question of like, what would God think of a sinner? You have to have more than like witty slogans or witty one-line responses. Like you should be able to talk at length about how does God feel about sin? How does God feel about those who sin? What does it mean to truly repent for something? Hint, it's not just saying I'm sorry and doing the same thing over and over again. You should have an understanding. I don't know why I'm explaining this. I don't care. It's just annoying and frustrating. And if you're a Muslim, you should be ashamed that like Sneako is your representative. You guys need to vet your simps harder. Why would I ever defund the police when they're about to help these spoiled children face consequences for the first time in their privileged, anti-Semitic $80,000 a year tuition lives? How much you want to bet? What percentage of these people at this campus do you think are even students? My guess is 50%. Oh my God. I just realized, do you know how Sneako is? There's only one thing worse to a militant Muslim than a non-Muslim. And that's an ex-Muslim. Oh no. Oh shit. Protester at NYU has no idea what she's protesting for.
And what would you say is the main goal with tonight's protest?
I think the goal is just showing our support for Palestine and demanding that NYU stops. I honestly don't know all of what NYU is doing.
Is there something that NYU is doing?
I really don't know. I'm pretty sure they're... Do you know what NYU is doing?
Didn't they fire one of the missiles at Gaza?
About Israel. Why are we protesting here?
Palestine will be free!
I wish I was more educated. I'm not either.
Oh.
I came from Columbia. I was there up at Columbia, and we came down. They said NYU students needed our support, so I came down. I heard there's lots of cops. Some people.
I think the mic volume issues because some people use earbuds. With my overseer, I can run the stream at 20% volume, but earbuds almost need a volume booster. So it's probably no. I don't believe you. We're not doing this anymore. I'm banning people that complain about the volume. You have hearing problems. I'll check. I've got AirPods. Hold on. Let's listen. I'm gonna listen on my earbuds. Let's check. Can I hear this? Is it loud enough? Let's find out. Okay. Even when I'm in like kind of mumbling, my volume's at like, it's higher. It's at like 60%. And that's what the background, that's what the ambient sound on. Hold on, let me turn that off. I'm at 50% on my AirPods. It's a little quiet at 50%. But I can hear it perfectly clear. Like, this is totally fine. Please check with AirPods on Android. Kill yourself. Shut the fuck up. You got, dude, it happened. I just want to point out that the thing that I said would happen did happen, okay? And it's what I complained about. I copied these complaints from other devs, to be fair. But it's what I complained about like 5-10 years ago, that having individual volume controls on every thing. So having individual volume controls on Discord, having the ability to mute individual windows, having the ability to change my volume like right here on the player here, and then having the ability to change my volume here, and then having an inbuilt volume mixer here. That's too much shit. It's way too much shit. It's way too much volume controls everywhere. So now all the volumes across all of the internet are completely, but that's okay because you can change all the 50 million different individual volumes you have. Some of the motherfuckers have volume controls on your headphones. You may be plugged into things with volume controls. You got volume controls on your speakers. I hate all of you.
Is the main...
I wish I was more educated. I'm not either.
Oh.
I came from Columbia. I was there up at Columbia, and we came down. They said NYU students needed our support, so I came down. I heard...
There's something very funny about a white girl in New York saying like, I came from Columbia. And you're like, damn, really? Oh, the private university up the street. Oh, I was just...
There's lots of cops. Some people were saying it was getting dangerous.
Wondering though, and I'm not trying to be offensive in any sense, but I've had debates with a lot of blue-haired feminists and these types of people. And when I talk about my interest in Islam, they bring up the fact that the Prophet Muhammad, he was married to a girl that was underage. What is the response to that? Because I don't know how to respond to that in a debate.
Yeah, I'm part of something called the Sapiens Institute, which is the institute which I co-founded. We've done a 3-part series on this question because it's one of the most common questions in the West. Like, why is it that the Prophet Muhammad, married Aisha at the age of 9, or there was I
think he married her when she was 6, didn't he? They fucked at 9, but potato.
Intimacy at the age of 9 and so on.
So
the first thing I would say is that if you want a more detailed answer of what I'm about to mention now, you can obviously go and see these. I've done a 3-part series. The second thing I would say is that, look, first and foremost, you could technically believe in Islam and not believe that the Prophet ﷺ or the Prophet Muhammad married Aisha at the age of 9. In other words, it's not an article of faith. One must believe that the Prophet Muhammad married, Aisha at the age of 9, or that there was some kind of consummation. I'm not saying this is a red herring that many people try and bring about in order to create some kind of a distraction to the key tenets of Islam. But let's take the historical account, because quite frankly, there are some revisionist accounts which some people have brought.
His question is so telling. Give me a talking point for debating instead of help me deepen my creed or something like that. Yeah, I know. I wasn't going to bring it up because I don't know the full context of this conversation. Maybe that's how it started. But listen, if you are religious, okay, you should be an atheist because that's based. But just kidding. If you are religious and you have questions about your religion, you can go to, if you've got a good church or a good synagogue or a good mosque, those are the 3 big ones, right? You could go to these places. You can ask them critical questions. Ask the lead preachers or ask the lead, whoever the name of your people with the hats in the books are, or whatever. If you ask them like, hey, I don't understand this. Like, how is it that, like, if God is real, why do kids get bone cancer? That just seems crazy to me. Like, can you explain that? Like, if God, like, or I read this thing on the internet, and it says that if God is all powerful, what is it? If God is all powerful and doesn't do anything to help evil, then he's evil. If God is all powerful and is willing to get rid of evil, then whence comes the evil? And if God is neither all powerful nor wants to, why call him God? There's some bullshit like this, or whatever, right? Like, how do you explain that, or whatever, right? You can go to any of your preacher people and ask them this, and they'll give you answers. They should have answers for you. They'll give you additional reading to do, and they'll give you like a long conversation about it. Like, every good church, or I imagine it's the same with mosques, and I imagine it's the same with synagogues. Do you call them synagogues or temples? Right? I imagine the same with all of these, that they should encourage you to have like critical questions about your religion. Remember, these religions have existed for thousands of years. You're not going to show up as a new believer and ask a procession leader or one of your lead priest guys. You're not going to ask them a question they never heard before. They've probably heard it. They've probably answered it. They'll be able to like give you guidance on this shit. And also, don't just ask for winning debates. Ask to deepen your understanding of the religion. If it's a faith you truly believe in and you're having questions.
Brought forward today and said, no, she wasn't 9, she was 18, or she was 21, or whatever. Looking at it myself, I don't agree with those accounts. I think that those accounts are not correct. I think it's correct that he married her at the age of 9. That's what happened, and that's something that she mentions herself, in fact, and it's narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari authentically. So the question is, why and how? The real answer is, bro, you're kind of alluding to it before, which is that we have social constructs. Social constructs, not the kind that the feminists and the ones on the far left are talking about, which is that they say sex is a social construct, or like, for example, Judith Butler said sex itself, biological sex, the penis in a sense, is a social construct. We're not talking about it. We do have some social constructs. And ironically, I think the social constructs are those things which cannot be empirically justified. And I think one of those things is the idea of childhood. I'll be totally honest with you and tell you. How do we determine what is a child? I mean, historically, we've always understood the idea of childhood as corresponding with
puberty. When you have your first period, when you can have children, it's going to be around children, I think.
Either biological ability or psychological capability or a combination of both.
Oh, okay. That's more than I expected.
The ability of somebody to work or to be domestic or have effective domesticality and all these kinds of things. When I looked at the issue from a historical perspective.
Also, Sneako trying the most cringe thing of everything that Sneako has ever done is when he tries so fucking hard to hold this like ultra serious face. It is the cringiest thing in the world. Oh my God.
I started to realize why the West in particular has started to redefine what it means to be a child. And I think I've got the answer. Because, you know, in the 1800s, you'll find that, quite frankly, people were getting married in the United Kingdom at the age of 10, 12, and in America, all the way down in Delaware, it was actually 9 years old or 7 years old. It was legal to get married at this age. So when did it shift? It actually shifted here in the United Kingdom. When 1914, obviously, as you know, 1914 to 1918, there was World War One. And after World War One, there was an infrastructural mess in parts of Western Europe. And the ideas of education started to change. So legislatively, there was a law that was put forward in 1924 or 1925, I cannot remember exactly the year, but it was a law that changed the marriage age from 12 years old to about 16 years old.
When did he...
Wondering, though...
This was a year ago? He had this whole breakdown a year ago, and he couldn't give any of this as an answer to me? What the
So in England, where I'm speaking from, the age to get married was 12, and then it changed to 16. Now, you might ask, what is the reason? Actually, funny enough, ironically, once again, part of it was to do with some protesting from the first wave feminists. I looked at some Hansard records, which are basically the records of Parliament and so on. So I wanted to see what exactly the reason was. Another part of the reason, in my opinion, was the fact that education started to be seen as, or when somebody would finish education, would start to be seen as the appropriate time of when adulthood begins. So in the United Kingdom, for example, I think in America it's very similar. The age until compulsory education is 16 years old. So it's almost as if they're telling us, look, you're not a real man, you're not a real woman.
Oh, also, I bet when Sneako was asking this question, Sneako just wanted a snappy, like, give me the 30-second debate response. And now he's like, fuck me, this guy's going to fucking yap for 10 minutes about this shit.
You're not an adult yet until you finish the educational program that we have in place for you. You have to be 16 and then you're an adult then. Now, this is completely alien in the historical landscape. I mean, this has never been how any civilization, almost at any point in time, in 5,000 to 6,000 years of human civilizational existence, has ever understood what it means to be an adult. Now, I'm not saying, therefore, we should change it and go back to our old days, because it's very difficult now to get a young person of today to do the actions that they were doing yesterday. But what I am saying is that it makes no sense to take these social constructs, which are not based on biological fact. They are merely social constructs, literally things which...
What would be the ideal response and justification of not getting morals and values, not from religion, but what from feels right or wrong? If you're going to do that type of argument, you're having a meta-ethical argument and you're having an epistemic argument. Like, where does truth come from? What is goodness? And that's going to be like a really deep, involved argument. There's not like a quick way to do that, right? I feel like as much as I said it was cringe before, also my opinions on ethics and everything changes every 2 years. So whatever I'm telling you now, I'm probably going to have a different opinion in 2 years. Before I used to say like intuition and moral intuition, everything was like ultra fucking cringe and lame. But now actually I kind of feel like, yeah, I think most morals are kind of just like intuitively arrived at, which is why I think thought experiments and, hypotheticals are really good ways to test moral boundaries. Because like, well, what does it feel like? Where's our feeling at here? And then you can kind of like, after you have the feeling, then you can kind of go back and try to write the rule basically. I guess the thing that I would appeal to is like, okay, well, there are so many different religions all over the world. Certainly, we can't agree that all of these religions are correct, but isn't it curious that all of these religions roughly have about the same values, right? Like, you don't have the pro-murder religion. You don't have the pro-child rape religion. You don't have the pro-stealing religion. There seems to be these, like, core intuitive moral values that every single civilization has kind of arrived at, more or less. And, like, even in the different religions, all these things manifest. But that's like what I just gave there, I think might be more of a question of epistemology than ethics, because now what I'm really talking about isn't necessarily like where do ethics or morals come from. Now I'm challenging the epistemic authority of your religious book, because the counter to that the person would give wouldn't be an ethical argument, it would be an epistemic. They say, well, hold on, I don't give a fuck about the other shit. My morals come from this book. I don't care what other religions say. Maybe they got lucky, maybe they got whatever. How do you think that? Yeah. So I don't know. This would be like a really in-depth conversation. I probably wouldn't even, depending on who I'm arguing with, I wouldn't even be able to do it well. Like if I argued with this Muhammad hijab guy, this guy would, my guess would be he would destroy me on almost any argument related to ethics, because he literally just apologetics. Anybody that does apologetics would crush me in these conversations, because I don't have the depth of knowledge either philosophically or religiously to hang in these conversations, would be my guess.
Have been put in place or have been understood to be okay, aesthetically pleasing, relativistic understandings by liberal people after the First World War and Second World War to be more particular. It became even more pronounced because there was an even bigger mess then, infrastructurally, and then they needed education even more to fix up economies. And so this idea of childhood corroborating or corresponding or being commensurate with educational age, or the end of childhood being when the education ends, became even more prominent. So what I'm saying is that, yes, it did happen, according to the most authentic historical account. And no, we don't think there's any problem with it at all. We think that it's just because we have a different idea of what it means to be a child, which can be...
As a debater, why are you looking past the fact that these Muslims never answer the question directly using the Quran? Aren't you hearing the mental gymnastics they are doing? Well, I wouldn't call them mental gymnastics, but the problem is that Sneako, the reason why I asked that question yesterday is what Sneako did was he staked out way too strong a position, which is that the Quran is perfect and has never changed. And that's probably a defensible position, because I don't think the Quran has ever changed. It's not like the Bible where you've got different books coming in and out and everything, right? I don't believe the Quran has ever changed. However, now you need to be able to defend, okay, well, why is it that why do some people believe in, follow like different hadiths? Or why do some people think that, Muhammad declared an actual error, right? Like if I would have asked Sneako, like, what's the difference between Shia and Sunni Muslims, which I think is that it's whether or not Muhammad actually named an error or not. Sneako probably wouldn't know the answer to that, right? So even if the book is perfect, obviously you're still going to have different interpretations of it, which is why you've got apologetics, and you can't just read the book and get all the answers. So I don't know. I think it's always, and then obviously those interpretations are going to be held hostage by whatever the cultural or historical context is. Like this guy's saying, like, well, how we evaluate who's a developed child is going to differ based on based on the values of the society you're in, how old children are when they start working, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Be tracked historically. But now, if the situation has changed, we say that the general principle in Islam is, you can do what you kind of want, so long as, I'm not going to say you can do what you want so long as you're harming. You can marry whomever you want to marry, so long as it doesn't cause them harm, physical and psychological. So, for example, if I marry a 100-year-old woman, or Sneako, if you marry with your tank top a 100-year-old woman, and you get involved with her intimately, she might die.
Like, it's so cringe, bro. Nobody's going to think you're gay for smiling. You're okay. Like, your masculinity is okay, bro. Like, you're fine. You can laugh. It's not gay to laugh. No one's going to think less of you, dude. You don't have to, this is so performative and cringe.
Marry whomever you want to marry, so long as it doesn't cause them harm, physical and psychological. So, for example, if I marry a 100-year-old woman, or Sneako, if you marry with your tank top a 100-year-old woman, and you get involved with her intimately, she might die. I mean, she might have some kind of health problem. So we would say that, well, if you were to be intimate with a 14-year-old or 13-year-old who's got huge hips and huge breasts and huge body, I mean, quite frankly, we would say it's not going to have the same effect medically. I mean, no one can make the argument. But in these countries where we live in now, one is legal and one is illegal. So, for in other words, you can't marry a 100-year-old woman, but you can marry that girl that's, you know, you can't. So you're a pedophile if you go for the girl that's got the hips. And once again, pedophilia is very relative, because if you go to Russia, the age of consent is 14, but in England it's 16, and parts of America it's 18, and other parts of America is 18, and other parts of the world is 21. So one man's pedophile is another man's good citizen, liberal actor. So the point of who sets the age is another issue, because it's very arbitrary at this point. But we're not saying, therefore, we should go back to a time where the age is not set. We're not saying any of that stuff. We're just saying that to use this as an argument against the veracity of the truthfulness of the religion of Islam is unsatisfactory, I would say. What do you think about that?
One thing I would also say, but I'm not a teacher, so no, I've taught before. No, but I will give this stronger criticism, okay? I think that if you do apologetics, like if you're Muhammad Hijab here and you're trying to teach somebody, I feel like the conversation needs to be way more involved. I would be really scared of, if I'm lecturing somebody for really even more than 3 minutes without asking them a question or to make sure they're following the conversation, I feel like you should have the person be way more involved in the conversation. Like, hey, like in the past, like some children started working at like 13 and 14, right? Or today, you know, some children don't work till they get out of college when they're like 22, right? You know this, right? Like ask them questions, make sure they're still like following along and involved in the conversation. Like yapping at somebody for 8.5 minutes and then asking them like, you got all that right? I think is kind of, not good.
I feel free to push back.
I think that's a good explanation. I think 9 is very young. It's
Did he listen to anything that he just said? He literally started off with, listen, you don't have to believe in 9. It's not like a core tenet of Islam to think that 9 years old is a marital age. And it is young, but he's talking about how culturally the age can be relative. Like 9 might be young to you today, you know, but in the past, you know, children might have been in the farms out in the fields working at 6, you know, who knows?
Right.
I think that's a good explanation. I think 9 is very young. 9 is very young.
I would kill myself. This would be it. It would shaheed, martyrdom, right here. If this is what Allah has tasked you with. This is your student.
Yes, I mean 9 is very young. Yeah, it's very young to us.
How old was Muhammad at the time? We don't need to stay on this subject.
Like what? He's not. Oh my God. Oof. Hold on. Sneako might be getting an IQ. Wait, hold on. I was about to give him an IQ down rating in my head. It's part of the reason why I say people are smart or not smart is because they can take new information and process it, which I feel like Sneako can do decently well. But it feels like he didn't engage with this at all. But maybe he's getting an IQ up rating in my head because he realized all of this is so fucking retarded, but he's just grifting anyway. So now he's just like shit posting through it. He's like, I mean, isn't 9 kind of young, bro? I don't know.
There's other we can talk. I was just wondering because in debates I want to figure out how to continue because that always comes up, especially from Christians.
I agree.
When the debate comes up, I wanted to see how to navigate that.
Okay, what is young? What does it mean to be young?
To be innocent, to be childlike, and not even going through puberty. Also, physically not matured yet.
Okay, there we go. Like this is a better train of thought. Yeah, I feel like Muhammad's earlier ramble was like for a more sophisticated, educated, like somebody that's a little bit deeper, and like lectures are things that you can only absorb when you've got like a sufficient foundation of knowledge. But now, yeah, you have to talk to him like he's young enough that Muhammad would have married him. You need to talk to him like this as a young child, and then ask him questions. What does it mean to be young, Sneako? That's a better approach, I think. Unironically, it is
to be childlike and not even going through puberty. Also, physically not matured yet.
Okay, beautiful, excellent. So you've mentioned some key terms, right? Innocence and puberty, because these are things which are measurable. Now we can start to talk about it. Frankly, we believe that Aisha at the time she had gone through puberty. So we actually have evidence of Aisha saying.
What do you think of hijab? He sounds decently smart. Maybe. I would never say somebody doing apologetics sounds smart, though, because these could be very advanced dialogue trees. To truly know if somebody like is intelligent, you'd have to hear them argue it with somebody else, because these guys will sound very smart, like YouTubers or YouTube essayists, but then when you pull them into a critical conversation, they can fall apart immediately. I'm not saying that he would necessarily do that, but I'm saying that can happen.
That she had gone through puberty at that time. So that's one aspect. The reason why he didn't marry her before, because she hadn't gone through puberty yet. Now, if you look at the numbers of people that go through puberty at whatever age, you will find a percentage of people even today that go through puberty at the age of 9. So yes, 9 is very young. This is what some of the revisionists.
I still can't get over the silliness of an Islam advocate dude named Muhammad Hijab. It's almost like his parents purposefully tried to create a stereotype. True. When I first heard that, I was like, no shot. But then I mean, like in our research, there's people named like fucking Muhammad. So it's like, fuck me. Listen, bros. Oh, fuck. Wait, has anybody made that meme? Like the Matt Walsh thing, what is a woman? Replace it with Sneako and do like, what is a child? Somebody must have made that meme. I wake up every morning and choose not to be gay. You choose that? True. Choosing so hard today not to love cock. What? There's a name for this. It was so funny that we stumbled into this as well. And Sneako had no idea. I can never pronounce it. Is it Euthyphro? Euphratro? What the is the name of this? There's a moral philosophy, theological argument that has to do with is it good because God commands it, or does God just command what is good? What's it called? The Euthyphro. Euthyphro? I don't know how the fuck to pronounce this. But it's like a classic question of divine command theory, I think, is one solution to this, which is the idea that I think things are good because God commands them. That's why they're good. But there's an idea that, like, is it good because God commands it, or does God command it because it's good? Is the goodness something that exists separate from God or whatever? I don't know, like, the full detail of how this argument goes back and forth. But it was just funny that came up, and Sneako had, like, never even considered this before. And he was like, well, it's good. Why is it good? And well, because God says it. It's like, oh, what if he told you tomorrow to kids? Would you do it then? You kind of have to bite. I think if you're divine command theory, bro, I think you kind of have to bite the bullet on that one. I don't think Sneako would bite a bullet on anything, though, because he's a coward. The only bullets that those people will bite are ones that they don't even think are, like, disagreeable. They're like, I'll bite the bullet, that we should beat the shit out of women. Yeah, no shit, because you think that's based. That's not what biting the bullet means. That's called jerking yourself off. Is gooning good because it's edging, or is edging good because it's gooning? True. Sneako is like 15 years late to the online atheism debates. Yeah, true. How do you know pedophilia is wrong? Because God said it's wrong. Oh, shit, true. William Lane Craig. That I defend is called divine command morality, and this has two components to it. The first is that the good is based in God himself. God is the paradigm of moral goodness. He is by nature loving, fair, just, and so forth. The second element is that God's nature then expresses itself toward us in the form of divine commands that constitute our moral duties. According to this theory, moral obligations arise as a result of imperatives issued by a qualified authority. That makes sense. Like, God would know what is good because goodness is part of God, and whatever God commands is obviously going to be mirroring whatever the goodness is because he's fucking God, right? Removed by Reddit. Ooh. Jesus.